Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska and this is the news. Important talks on the future of Ukraine are underway. U.S. President Joe Biden flew to Berlin to discuss aid to Ukraine and a plan to end the war, together with European politicians. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk was not invited to the table, which left Poland, a leader in helping Ukraine, disregarded. And all in a matter that is crucial for the Poles, because after all, this is also a matter of our security. An American leader, a German chancellor, a French president, and a British prime minister. Within such a group in Berlin, talks are held regarding the future of Ukraine, and such words are spoken.
America and Germany are the two largest supporters of Ukraine in its fight for survival as a free and independent nation. As Ukraine faces a tough winter, we must sustain our resolve, our effort, and our support.
Under the Law and Justice government, Joe Biden came to Poland to discuss aid to Ukraine here, to consult on decisions here, to coordinate arms supplies to the front here. Now he went to Berlin and did not say a word about the Polish government or Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Poland was completely left out. Ukraine's ability to resist further is completely dependent on Poland's support and on transit through Poland, and yet we no longer participate in virtually any significant arrangements. This is another area where we see how the rule of Donald Tusk and his people are bringing Poland down to not even the first floor anymore, but below the first floor. This is the annihilation of our position in Europe. All it took was a change of power, and the role of Poland was smoothly taken over by Germany, which, after all, for a long time only pretended to help Ukraine. We stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine for as long as it takes. Putin was wrong to start this war. We have decided within the G7 on a package worth $50 billion, which we will give to Ukraine later this year. Behind Poland's back, politicians agreed that Ukraine deserves further aid, but the goal is to end the war on terms favorable to Kiev.
If we start now and follow the victory plan, we can end this war no later than next year. Dear friends, I presented the victory plan to our parliament, our people, and I have their support. And I think it's so important to have unity in our country. The goal of the plan is that it strengthens not only Ukraine, but also our entire community.
The Ukrainians are bravely defending themselves and leading a counteroffensive that would not have been possible without Poland, until recently considered a leader in aid. Today, Donald Tusk has not even been invited to the negotiating table. Decisions, after all, important also for our security, are already being made by others.
Building on the conversation I had with President Zelensky at Downing Street last week, we remained united in our support for Ukraine. We have always said that it is for the Ukrainian people to decide their own future. So we're clear, together with President Zelensky, that the only acceptable outcome is a sovereign Ukraine and a just peace.
And we are accompanying Ukraine on its path to the European Union accession. Let me focus one moment on this point. We had the first intergovernmental conference in June, so Ukraine took a huge step forward.
Poland is losing control over strategic decisions on Ukraine, despite the fact that the war with barbaric Russia is taking place just across our border, and Russian or Belarusian provocations against our country continue unabated. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar is dead. The militant leader was killed in the vicinity of a refugee camp in the southern Gaza Strip. He was allegedly behind the organization of the attack on Israel last October. Are there any prospects for ending the war in Gaza? This is drone footage from the Israel Defense Forces, documenting the last moments of the Hamas leader's life. Wounded and cornered in a ruined building. Moments later, the assault began. We identified him as a terrorist inside the building. We shot at the building and went inside. We found him with a vest, a gun, and 40,000 shekels. He attempted to flee, but our forces eliminated him. Sinwar took over as Hamas leader after the death of previous leader Ismail Haniyeh. He was one of the most important figures in the group's command structure. According to Israeli intelligence, he was responsible for organizing the October 7th attack on Israel last year.
Surprisingly, Israel says that he was not the target of this operation. Instead, they say that he was participating in a battle in the southern Gaza Strip.
The killing of Sinwar will certainly be used by terrorists to build a martyr cult around his character. However, global agencies point out that his death could be a turning point in the war.
Good day for the world. They got I thought this is now this is rather instead of Sinwar. That's how the flag we has. American blood, Israeli blood, and others. And I told them that we're for trees and fractions. As far as that now it's time to move on. Move toward a ceasefire, dodger, and surely we're moving in the direction that we're advanced position besides see better for the whole world. It's not to destroy the land until we're possibly strong.
However, Tel Aviv does not see an end to the campaign in Gaza for the time being, indicating that the main goal of the operation has still not been achieved.
While this is not the end of the war in Gaza, it's the beginning of the end. To the people of Gaza, I have a simple message. This war can end tomorrow. It can end if Hamas lays down its arms and returns our hostages. Hamas is holding 101 hostages in Gaza, who are citizens of 23 countries, citizens of Israel, but citizens of many other countries. Israel is committed to doing everything in our power to bring all of them home. And Israel will guarantee the safety of all those who return our hostages. But to those who would harm our hostages, I have another message. Israel will hunt you down and bring you to justice.
And there is no chance of that at the moment. Both Hamas and Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon pledged to fight till the last soldier is standing. And while Israel has the full advantage in the Gaza Strip, it is no longer going so well on the front line in Lebanon. According to news agencies, Israel has lost more than 50 soldiers there since the 1st of October. It seems that the Polish prime minister has changed his rhetoric on migrants. There are no longer poor people on Poland's eastern border looking for their place on earth who need to be helped. According to Tusk's latest statement, militants who are trained by Belarusian services are being brought down to the border for Russian money. Seems like an anti-immigration stance. However, according to Politico, all members of the European Council are in favor of accelerating the migration pact. Donald Tusk. These are poor people looking for their place on earth. And Donald Tusk. The situation on the Polish-Belarusian border is a situation in which organized groups, sometimes trained for months by the Belarusian services, with the aim of illegally crossing the border. The bipolarity in politics of the head of the civic platform is basically no novelty, because the fact that he has views that are simply fashionable and up to date has been known for a long time. Why the sudden change on the issue of migration? This didn't happen by itself. Experts point out that the anti-immigrant policy on the lips of the head of government is to help him in the race for the presidency, to position him as a defender of Polish borders. Yes, you did not mishear, as a defender of Polish borders. This is such a nod to those who do not sympathize with the civic platform, but are concerned about uncontrolled migration, and who will then say that Tusk is doing something about it. Presenting the idea of migration policy, Donald Tusk talked about suspending the right to asylum. Let's leave aside the fact that a few days later, he said he did not say that. There will be a temporary territorial suspension of the right to asylum. No one here is talking about suspending the right to asylum. And let's also leave aside the fact that legally, the implementation of this idea is questionable. The whole new narrative that Donald Tusk is pushing does not go hand in hand with the facts, like the creation of 49 integration centers for foreigners in Poland. This is not a method that was invented by Donald Tusk himself. In fact, this type of method is also used in the West. For example, in Germany, where the CDU, and even at the moment the other political groups, are stealing election slogans from the Alternative for Germany, which from the beginning was clearly strongly anti-immigration. To further cases that do not confirm the case of a real change in the migration issue under Donald Tusk, as reported in the media, Germany may hand over thousands of migrants to Poland on a readmission basis. That is, migrants against whom they have suspicions that they got there through the borders with Poland.
I o tym Donald Tusk mówić nie chce.
This is something Donald Tusk does not want to talk about. He prefers to pick his own subtopic and flaunt it as a good understanding of the problems of Poles. And one more thing, the position of Brussels. The European Commission is upholding the implementation of the Migration Pact, which commits member states to a simple mechanism: take migrants in or pay. According to the Politico website, members of the European Council are in favor of a clear acceleration of the implementation of the pact, which is originally intended to take effect from 2026. And so, according to the opposition, the 36-page document on migration that Donald Tusk is boasting about is a political puff piece that has nothing to do with ensuring the safety of Poland and the Polish people. The Łódź Zoo has welcomed a new animal. A two-toed sloth was welcomed into the world. He was born just before International Sloth Day, which falls on the 20th of October. For now, the mother is teaching the baby to eat and move around. Naturally, not too fast. And the zoo staff has quite the challenge ahead, as they must choose a name for the baby sloth. The two-toed sloth was born healthy and joined his brothers. He is the third offspring of a pair of sloths that has been living at the Łódź Zoo since 2019. It is not yet known what the baby's gender is.
Cechy płciowe nie są takie jednoznaczne.
Sexual characteristics are not clear. To assess the baby's gender, genetic tests are necessary. Soon the fur will be collected for testing and sent to a special lab. The caretakers are speculating that it may be a female, according to its behavior, and in comparison with previous sloths. The birth of a baby sloth into the world is all the more joyful as its population is dwindling. The species is threatened by massive deforestation in the Amazon forest and increasingly frequent fires. Globally, it is not an endangered species, but locally such threats are there, and we know them. But it is an extremely interesting species for educational reasons. It has unusual adaptations, variable body temperature, and the species has a long lifespan. The newborn baby does not have a name yet. Internet users are welcome to help out. A brainstorming session is underway on the social media of the Łódź Zoo.
Zbieramy propozycje.
We are taking suggestions, and once we are 100% sure what the gender is, then we will choose the most popular name. At the moment, Burza, Grażyna, and other fairy tale characters are most popular. Animal lovers and employees of the Łódź Zoo have reasons to celebrate. A real baby boom is underway there this year. The animal family has grown with the addition of a baby hippo, a kangaroo, and Asian small-clawed otters. That's all for the news tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.